Hey folks, welcome back to the big show. Remember, what was his name? Ed Sullivan. The Ed Sullivan Show. I used to like that show. I didn't love it. I remember when the Beatles came on it. And then they would have those guys that would spin the plates on the sticks. That was pretty cool. And that's about it. That's all I remember. But here's something for you to remember if you like cars. If you have an interesting vehicle or you don't, I don't care. I'm inviting you to an event. It's a Cars and Coffee event right here in Greenville, Tennessee. We're just about 30 minutes from everywhere in East Tennessee, Western North Carolina. Well, maybe a little bit longer than 30 minutes, but that's, is that false advertising? Well, slightly. Okay, no more false advertising. We're having something called Second Saturday Cars and Coffee. Why are we calling it that? Because it's every second Saturday. Whatever month you pick, the second Saturday will be a cool cars, trucks, and coffee event at Gateway. And for this inaugural event, we're doing something even cooler now. Oh, by the way, it's May 10th from 8 a.m. until around 11:30. People get hungry. They want to leave. You know, this isn't like just a regular car show where people, line up and they take a lot of effort and try to make sure all the lines are straight, and then people get their lounge chairs and sit them out and stuff. If you want to bring lounge chairs, that's fine. Some people do. But this is just an opportunity to get that old car out and drive it, come to Greenville. We get to talk. We get to meet. You get to eat some unhealthy donuts and drink some wonderful beverages from the Creamy Cup of Tusculum, Tennessee, a wonderful place, little drive-through that they have there, and they've been in business a long time, and I'm paying. I'm buying everything plus. Well, first, as I was trying to say, it's an informal car gathering. There's no entry fee, just an excuse to show off your ride. You bring your antique, your hot rod, your low rider, I'll even let you bring a lifted monster truck if you want to, a sports car, whatever you love to drive, and come swap tails with like-minded car lovers. We're even going to have cash prizes this time. Now, it's next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but the 10th. I am giving 5 $100 prizes. The first one is called Mine is the Bestest prize. So if you think you have the very bestest vehicle, then, I have to agree. And then you win $100. A second prize is I drove the furthest. For this, that's another prize. And then, are you trying to bust my eardrums prize? So this will be for the loudest vehicle or the loudest stereo. It could be either one of those. The next prize is for $100 is how did they do that? Something amazing. It could be an amazing restoration. It could be, just an amazing creation. Or how did they lift that truck that high? Or it could be anything. How did they do that interior that cool? So we just want to see some cool stuff. And then we're going to have a prize for what the heck were they thinking? You ever seen somebody spend a whole lot of money to restore something and you just thinking, okay, it's a four-door car, plus it's ugly. But we won't say that out loud. They probably know it, but we won't say it. We'll just hand them a $100 bill. So all this is taking place Saturday, May 10th, and every second Saturday through September 2025 on the lot, in the field, and on the front street at Gateway Ford and Gateway Nissan beside the AMC Theaters, 1055 West Andrew Johnson Highway, Greenville, Tennessee. We're probably 28 minutes from Johnson City, depending on which end you are. If you're on the western end of Johnson City. Maybe you could make it in 22 minutes, depending on the traffic lights in Jonesboro. If you're in Kingsport, 40 minutes. Morristown, Tennessee, 30. Elizabethton, 40. See, it's not that far. And we're going to have swag. I told my daughter Abby, I said, I need some swag. She said, what kind of swag? I said, well, I don't know. Hats, T-shirts, anything, koozies. Just think of something, stuff that I can give away during our second Saturday Cars and Coffee event. She said, okay, I'll get it. So she's committed to get it, and it will be available. And I intend to give it away. So come on down. Let's talk cars. You want to? I'll take my first break. I'll be back in just 1 minute. Okay, I am back. Well, it looks like the U.S. House of Representatives have told California what they can do with their electric vehicle plan. So what was their plan? Well, they said that they were going to end the sale of gasoline-only vehicles by 2035. And this concept, this idea, has been adopted by 11 other states, and you could probably guess which ones adopted it. Mostly in the Northeast or Northwest of this country. But the House of Representatives voted saying, nah, we're not going to give the Environmental Protection Agency the right to do this. Their mandate was that at least 80% of the vehicles sold in California by 2035 had to be EVs. See, this is where the government, another place where they stick their nose into everybody's business as to what they can buy. Now, there's a purpose for government. I totally agree. I mean, I don't think cars would be as safe as they are right now without government intervention. I don't think they would be running as clean as they do. The EPA did have a big impact on cleaning up tailpipe emissions, and I think that's a good thing. But as far as mandating that, yeah, you're going to buy an EV whether you like it or not, even though we have no charging or reliable charging infrastructure out there to support you as you travel across this country, you're going to buy one and you're going to like it. So no, we're not, and they don't have to in California now. Let's see what else. Oh, the Trump tariffs. I'm not a big fan of this. I understand the logic behind it, but it's created a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth among the general public and car dealers, the auto industry in general. But they've decided to back off a little bit. The White House released adjustments to how the tariffs are calculated. They're going to give the car makers more time to move a lot of their supply chains to the U.S., and it is having a big impact as far as commitments are concerned to move production here. And that was the whole reason, right? To get them to build factories here to employ Americans, if the Americans want to work. See, that's the other big issue. I was talking to a guy that owns a huge roofing company. Now, when I say roofing, he does these major, big-time apartment complexes and things like that. He'll do a lot of commercial stuff and a lot of residential stuff as well. But he's got, I think, over 300 employees, and 80% of those employees are from South and Central America. And I didn't ask him if they were legal or not, but he says, Lenny, there's just no comparison in the work ethic of these people and the work ethic of the people that I used to have to hire that were American citizens and were not Hispanic. Why is that? I do not understand it. What is wrong with this country? What is wrong with the people that they just don't want to do certain jobs? They don't want to do jobs like that, getting on top of a hot roof apparently, and they don't want to pick tomatoes and do the kind of, any type of agricultural job that requires being outside and not using a piece of equipment. We don't want to do that. I don't have a solution, but this is real. I've heard it from too many people. I see it in the construction sites all over, where I live. D.R. Horton, they're building these housing complexes all over East Tennessee right now, probably all over the country. And when you drive up and down the street, just looking at all the construction, it's all Hispanic folks that are doing it. But now when you go into a big assembly plant, like an auto assembly plant, you don't see that. I mean, you see a mixture of all different ethnic groups. But there apparently are jobs that a lot of us just aren't willing to do. And so, as they crack down on immigration, all that, which I'm in favor of, illegal immigration, that is, what is that going to do to the workforce and the ability to handle the agriculture needs that we have and to handle putting roofs on top of buildings? I don't know. Maybe they'll start building robots and they'll take it over. And then we can all retire. Just send me a check. Just make it big. Okay, what else? Oh, Ford extended employee discount pricing through July 4th. Now, originally, Ford was going to offer this, just kind of to fight the headwinds of all this tariff stuff. Ford jumped out there and said, okay, we're going to give everybody employee pricing. And what is that? Is that a real thing, Lenny? Yes, it is. It's a real thing. You don't have to negotiate to get a great price on a car. This is something everybody's been clamoring for ever since I've been in the car business. Why do you have to negotiate to buy a car? Well, you don't have to anymore because A-plan pricing is below what I pay for a car. Ford ends up paying us a fee, and so it's not as good as normal, but it's okay, and we'll trade that for volume. I'm just worried we're going to run out of cars because this employee pricing is just really good. One thing that you do need to watch out for, though, since the prices on the vehicles up front are so good and you don't have to negotiate, there is still a couple of opportunities for you to get taken advantage of if you're not paying attention, and that is on your trade value. And then what happens when you go into the finance office, and if you're shopping at a dealership that just really loves to pack payments with stuff that customers don't know anything about, then you got to be careful about that. You can still negotiate for your trade. I guess that some dealers may negotiate on employee pricing. I don't know, but you really don't need to because, like I say, it's below our original invoice price. It's less than I can actually buy cars from Ford. And there are a couple exclusions. F2, any kind of Super Duty is excluded. And I can't remember what else. But there are several that aren't. It provides discounts of roughly $2,000 on some of the cheaper cars to as much as $10,000 on most of the lineup to give consumers clarity. I like clarity. The tariffs have been unclear because they didn't know, what was going to happen to avoid the doubling up of tariffs. And so the new plan basically gives some relief on steel, aluminum, and a lot of parts that are going into cars to prevent having the tariffs duplicated. So let's say an engine is built in Canada, it comes to the United States, and it's going into a vehicle. Then you're going to have to pay a tariff on the value of that engine. If the vehicle is built in Mexico, and the engine is built in Canada, then as it comes into the United States, it's got a tariff on the engine. Then when it goes into Mexico, it gets another tariff, and then when it comes back into the United States, it gets another tariff. They think they have that figured out. So what's going to happen to prices overall? They're going to go up some, not a tremendous amount, but they're going to go up some. Some more than others. More exotic cars like Porsches and Ferraris and stuff like that, but those people don't care for the most part. They're just kind of holding vehicles at the port so that they don't have to. Well, they're waiting to see what's going to happen. This is not going to give the German automakers any relief, though, because their entire vehicle is made overseas, and so it's 25% tariff. So anyway, if you're wanting to buy a Stellantis product, I was talking to a customer the other day, and I said, is that a Stellantis? And they're driving what was it? It was a Jeep. And I said, do you like your Stellantis? And he said, what? I said, your Jeep, do you know who makes it? He said, Jeep? No, Stellantis makes it. That's the parent company. Well, I've never heard of that. Well, that's it. Most people haven't. They also make Peugeots and Renaults and Fiats and things like that. And they make Jeeps. That's who made your Jeep or your Dodge minivan, or your, what else? Ram truck. It's made by Stellantis. I mean, I remember, well, I don't totally remember because I wasn't born, when the Chrysler Corporation was made up of Dodge, Plymouth, DeSoto, and, of course, Chrysler. That's pretty much it. I mean, there was no Ram. I remember when we were a Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge dealer for a while, and they started putting ram, like the head of a ram, like a sheep or a goat, I should say. Are rams goats or sheep? I think they're goats. And so it had a hood ornament that is in the shape of a ram head. I thought it was pretty cool. And then they started saying, then they came out with something called the Ram Charger. I think they fell in love with the name Ram, and they decided to call their trucks, all of them, Ram, and create this separate brand. And so there are people that are actually loyal to Ram trucks, mostly younger people. There's some older guys that like Rams now. They were Dodge fans, and now they're Ram fans. But what they all are, they're Stellantis folk. Can you imagine what Henry Ford would have thought of that name? Or William Durant, the founder and the consolidator, the guy who bought Chevrolet and consolidated all these companies and called it General Motors. I mean, General's a pretty bland name compared to Stellantis. So is Ford, for that matter. But anyway, people don't really care. I don't think, for the most part, because they're not really aware that is the name of the parent company. I'm going to do my best, though, to quit making fun of them because I might offend some of the Stellantis folks. They build good vehicles. Rams are great. I saw a test the other day. Road and Track, or Car and Driver, did a comparison between the top-selling trucks. So what are they? Well, F-150 is number one. We're talking about half-ton trucks, okay? Light-duty trucks. F-150 is number one, then Silverado, GMC, Ram, and Toyota Tundra. And they ranked the Ram last. And then came the GM vehicles. They were second and third. Then came the Toyota Tundra, and they didn't like it because terrible gas mileage. And then Ford was number one. So, that's good for us as a Ford dealer. I've seen over the years people are pretty loyal to a particular truck brand. When we had the Chevy store, we thought Fords stunk. I mean, I was an anti-Ford. I was as anti-Ford as you could get. The only reason I liked Dodge and Chrysler, I really didn't like it that much when we were selling them. I thought we were selling K cars and Chrysler New Yorkers and Fifth Avenues. They were pitiful, really. Of course, Chevy celebrities, and let's see what else. Well, you go back far enough. Vegas, the Lumina APV. You look at General Motors vehicles that we didn't sell, like the Pontiac Aztec. They were some real losers. Ford had them too, though. Remember the Fairmont and the Granada, the Pinto? Pintos were fine as long as you didn't get hit in the rear end by somebody and it would explode. And the Chevy Vega, it was great until it got about 50,000 miles on it, and then the engine would melt. I mean, really, it's a wonder that there still are domestic auto companies because of the quality of the stuff that we were selling. We didn't realize that it wasn't good quality, until Honda came along. And I remember when a Honda dealer came to Greenville, they offered my dad the franchise. A guy drove up in this little yellow thing, and it had a motorcycle engine in it. At least that's what he thought. It was very, very small vehicle. And my dad said, "No, I don't think so. I don't think we need to sell Hondas." That was one of his worst business decisions. Within a couple years, he was trying to get a Fiat franchise because everything else was kind of taken. And that's a long story, but he got taken advantage of, and thank goodness some other dealer in Greenville ended up with the Fiat franchise, and he lasted about 2 years. Then we ended up getting the Mazda franchise, and it was wonderful. We loved Mazda, and it was a great seller for us for so many years. There were many months we sold more Mazdas than we sold Chevrolets, and so it was very, very good for us. But then Mazda kind of lost their way. We ended up giving Mazda back to Mazda back in around 2000. When was that? 2016, 2017. And we're able to purchase a Nissan franchise. And so far, that's been really good. So I will take my last break. I'll be back here in just a minute. All right, I am back, and all I can do is apologize. This is one of those shows where I just kind of rambled. And, sometimes I get my mind on all my past. I think about all the ups and the downs and the the stuff that we've sold and the experiences that we've had in the car business. And it just falls out of my mouth, and I just can't contain it. So if you want more of this, you can listen tomorrow. If you do not, I don't blame you. But I would love to meet you. So come down for our Cars and Coffee. It's called Second Saturday, Cars and Coffee, because it's every second Saturday. And it starts, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, May 10th. Bring your old car, and let's talk cars. I'll show you mine, too. I've got a bunch to show. I'm going to have a wide selection of my collection. Well, really all of them. I'm going to have my almost finished 1949 truck that is also a car hauler. And it is a feast for the eyes for sure. It's really special. I just dread having to wash it. It's 28 feet long. And it has lots of nooks and crannies and crevices, and it's going to be hard to wash. And I'm going to try to do it myself, but I might need some help. Plus, we're going to have a bunch of teenagers here, allowing them to raise money for their organization at Gateway. We let them come and wash our inventory, and we pay them $5 a car for as many cars as they can wash. And they just love it, so we do that. We'll probably do that 5 or 6 times during the summer. So we're always trying to be creative, trying to create ways to make this business fun and for people to enjoy doing business with us. Well, thanks for listening to this edition of My Car Guru. If you have an issue you want to talk to me about, 423-552-2020, or send me an email to LennyLawson2020@gmail.com. And I'll see you next time.